Hello, everybody.
Oh, hold on. I forgot
Yeah,
to put
bring me up.
There he
honestly,
is.
here I am. Leave me in the background. I know. Taking the limelight as always.
Well, that's me. Hey, I'm Mr. Limelight.
Yes, you
I'm
are.
Mr. Limelight. Ooh. How is everybody anyway? Are you all good?
I'm good. How are you, Steve?
I'm good, Rob. How are you? Oh, no,
You're looking
this
the
way.
wrong way.
I'm good. It's because I reversed my camera for the old greeny screeny thing.
I know.
How are you, mate? Anyway, good?
I'm doing good. Yeah, it's been a good week, all things considered. I've been quite busy. How about you? I know you've been
back to work.
Yeah, it sucks.
Been back to work. Very hard to get back into the routine of actually getting up in the morning and going and doing stuff, working with kids, then coming home. I've been falling asleep on the couch getting home from work and everything. I've been like just zonked. Very hard to get back into a routine. I don't know if it's an age thing that I'm struggling with it now, or if it's just the fact that I've been a lazy ass over lockdown.
It's hard to say, isn't it?
Hard to say.
It's been hard to get motivated this past year, really.
Yeah, has definitely.
In some ways, anyway. So,
yes. Well, we've got an action-packed show this week, Mr. Robert. You've been interviewing.
Yes, I interviewed a lady woodturner here in Canada, Miss Ruby Cler. She is a professional woodturner, so advice from her is well worth listening to. And yeah.
Absolutely. Sorry, I'm just moving my thing around because I just realized I'm actually looking at the chat and I'm not actually looking at the chat. So that's better. I'm actually looking at the camera now. That's much better. Cool. Yeah. So yeah, we've got interview that we're going to be playing in a little while. That's around about 40 minutes long, isn't it, Rob? In and around.
It's under. Well, it depends. If we stop the video in a couple of spots, it's going to take that amount of time. Yeah.
Yeah, so we'll see how it's going, and but we'll just have a look in the chat there. We'll say hello to a few people. We've got a few people in there this week, so I should just say some hellos. We have Tom Dunn. Hi, Tom. We've got Tommy. We've got Adam, Brian, Wayne, Bigfoot. We have Rob and Steve's in there. We've got Richard Phelan, I'm guessing. Who else have we got? I'm just trying to go. We've got Wayne the Woodturner. Hi, Wayne. We've got Ruby in the chat. Hi, Ruby. Very welcome. Looking forward to your interview. We have, who else do we have? We have Keith. We have Gav. Now, I'm going by the StreamYard chat here, folks, so it might be a bit slow. I might miss a couple of people. It's not intentional. I'm not like that. Rob is. I'm not.
Not at all.
We've got Carol, another Canadian. We have Leona Faye, and we have, I think that's Steve Coombs. Hello, Steve Coombs. Ian.
Isn't it Steve Combs?
Oh, it could be Combs. It's Combs, yeah. Sorry, I just totally read that wrong. It's Coombs if you're posh. Steve Coombs.
Which you are not. Okay.
Mike, you. Shut your face. We've got Joseph and everybody else.
Yes.
We've got Nick the Flaming Turner and everybody else. I won't go through everybody now, but we've got everybody. Hello, everybody. You're all very welcome. Let's get the road showing. Shall we? What do you want to do first, Rob?
I don't know. I almost feel like that we should get into Ruby's interview fairly soon because we don't want to, unless you want to run over. I don't want to run out of time.
It doesn't matter if we run over a little bit. No. It really doesn't. I mean, we're not held to any. I'm not at work tomorrow because we're on midterm.
Yeah.
So I've got a day off. Well, I've got a week off now, thankfully.
So I know the Wood of the Week section is chock-a-block.
Yeah.
Chock-a-block, kind of fitting.
I see what you did there.
And Jig of the Week shouldn't take too long, but it's interesting. I think it'd be nice to get that in. And I don't know what you've got on your plate there, Steve.
Yeah, the fascinating facts I've kept with trees and wood and stuff this week. So we'll keep with the kind of whole wood turning and wood theme, even though the wood of the week isn't wood.
It's
But
not
anyway,
wood.
that's. But anyway, we'll go with what we've got. Right. Do you know
Okay.
what we'll do? We'll
What?
kick straight into the interview, shall we?
I think that's a great idea, Steve.
All right, we'll do that. So we're going to go straight into this.
Oh, and the flag did show up this time.
It did. Yay. This is our new segment, a segment that we'll have every now and then. We're not going to do it every week. An interview with, and this week it is the lovely Ruby Cler. So now I'm hoping and praying now that this works, because I've been playing with all this. We're going to try and get up the interview now. Here we go, folks.
Section of the Rob and Steve show. This is the section where I'm going to introduce you to a fellow woodturner. I'd like to introduce you to Ruby Cler. And
glad to be here.
I appreciate you taking the time to have this short interview with us, just to be a part of the Rob and Steve show. I want to try and make it a little bit more professional with regards to the information that we're getting and that we're handing out to people, from a point of view from somebody that's been turning for a long time. So we can start off with some questions. I think I've got about 10 questions to ask you. I'm going to step out of the camera and I'm going to hand it all over to you. You can have the limelight for this, and I'll just be behind the camera. So we've got some pieces that you've made here, so it's going to be a lot of fun and interesting for everybody to see. The first question is sort of a two-part question. It's how many years have you been turning, and what got you started into wood turning?
Well, first of all, I started turning in the late 70s, but I didn't do any real turning until the early 80s. With my generation, girls weren't allowed to take shop classes or anything like that at school. At the end of high school, I wanted to go into the skilled trades, but I was told don't even apply because they weren't taking girls or women at that time. Even when I went to university, I tried to get into engineering, and they wouldn't let girls into that program. So most of the stuff I've taken up, I took up on my own over the years. And one of the first things I did was I took up carving. And I belonged to the Sun Parlor Wood Carvers Society. We had about 350 members and some very, very prominent carvers. And these were the type of things that I carved through the club. While I was a member of the carving club, one of the members died, and when I went over to his place to buy some of his tools from his widow, there was a lathe there, and even though I didn't know how to use it, I gave her $100 for it. In hindsight, it was a good and bad thing. The lathe was pretty basic. It didn't have forward and reverse, it didn't have variable speed, and it had one belt. The spindle was a 5/8 inch, so you really couldn't even buy a chuck or anything to fit it. But I did play around with it for a bit. After that, I found a few people who got me started on the way, and I started taking classes. And as a result of that, I went out, and my next lathe I bought was the Powermatic 3520. And I was really lucky because Canadian money was at par, and so I went over to the States and bought it. Now I was also, prior to all of this, into a lot of art, a lot of decorative painting, and basically I ran out of space on the walls, so painting on canvases wasn't practical anymore. So I started turning things that I could paint on, give me new surfaces to paint on. And these are a few of the things that I've painted on my wooden piece. This is a beach bowl that I turned on the lathe, and then I hand painted it. Over time it's become a little bit oval, but it hasn't affected the paint or how it came out. This piece was painted on a walnut shallow walnut bowl. And I did a few of these as Christmas gifts for people. They wanted their puppies painted on them. And then this was a little more realistic one that I was doing with oils, and it was painted on just a piece of maple.
Okay, so the next question is, what kind of training have you had over the years, and who have you met and had the opportunity to train with?
Well, I'm glad you pre-asked me some of these questions because there's a long list of people that I've learned from. I've gone to places such as Craft Supplies USA in Provo, Utah. I've gone to Aeromont in Tennessee. I've gone to École Escalin, which is in France. And basically I'll go anywhere to learn something new. For example, when I first wanted to learn how to make the cowboy hats, I tracked down Johannes Mikkelsen and I drove to his place in Vermont. And as a result, I learned how to make hats. Okay, this one I have to refinish. It's been in the snow and rain and it's gotten a little battered. And as you can see, I made them to fit. One of the most influential people who taught me how to turn was Alan Batty. And from him I learned how to make this secret box. And as you can see, all the sides look pretty much the same. But if you press in the right center, this will come out. And the lid comes off. You have a nice little box. These were popular apparently back in the 1600s. And this one is made out of a faux ivory. And it took a little bit of figuring to get it all so that it came out properly. Once it's together, it takes a little while to figure out which button to press to get to your secret box. Another person who had a lot of influence in my turning was Stuart Mortimer. And from Stuart I learned how to do twisted pieces such as this with the pigtail, and how to decorate them and make them look somewhat nice. This was just a plain piece of maple, believe it or not. And then I went on to do this piece with him. This is a piece of acacia, and I did this while I was in England visiting him. He taught me how to make the finial out of wood first, and how to make the collar in wood, set it in sand, and then we poured the silver in to make this. And the same thing basically with the finial. So it was made first in wood and then it was cast. Most people take their vacations to go somewhere south, go on a cruise, something like that. All of my vacations have all been to go and take a turning class somewhere. Or if I, through different clubs that I belong to, take a weekend class that's being offered through the club. So in that manner, I've met such people as Jean-Francois Escalin, Alain Meland, Hans Weisflog, Chris Dodd, I learned to do boxes from, Malcolm Tibbetts, Graham Priddle, Neil Turner, Jean-Claude Charpignon, Paul Textier, Elie Avicera from Israel, Nick Cook, Betty Scarpino, Ray Keys, and I mean Mike Hoselick. The list of people that I've taken classes with, either for a week or multiple weeks, or just a weekend or a one-day class, it's pretty large. I mean, I've just mentioned a few of the people in that, and every one of them had a very profound effect on what I learned and how I turn and what I do. You know, and the best advice I can give someone, if you want to learn how to turn properly, take a class with somebody who knows what they're doing.
Okay, so the next question I have is interesting for every turner because every turner is different. I know my favorite thing to turn has always been a bowl, but just lately I've been wanting to expand into some different areas. So my question to you is, what's your favorite thing to turn at this moment?
What I'm doing is I'm still learning how to turn. There are still many things that I want to learn how to make. And most of the time I can look at something somebody else has turned and I can figure out pretty much how they did it. And if I can't figure it out, then that thing really intrigues me. And it was that attitude that got me into turning things such as the Chinese balls, where you have a sphere with 5 or 6 or 7 spheres inside. And after I learned how to do those, I did one with 13 spheres inside. I sat one day and I watched Paul Textier from France, who's quite elderly, turning. And I took photographs of everything he did, the tools he used, which were pretty primitive. And at the end of the day, he looked at me and he said, "Tomorrow, you make these." And the next day, he sat me down at his lathe with his tools and talked me through making those items. Now, even though Paul's in his early 90s, he's still turning and creating new things. These are 2 pictures he's just sent me recently of things that he's been making at home. And he doesn't have a big lathe, he just has like a small 12-inch lathe at best. Now, I mentioned the Chinese balls and the spheres within a sphere. This one has 13 spheres inside. And it took several days to turn all of it. What really intrigued me was, though, how you turn 2 spheres and get them interlocking. And I've seen some, if you ever go to the École Escalin in France, across the street is a museum on wood turning, and you'll see ones where they have like 12 of these interlocked that have all been turned. And it's just mind-boggling how it's done. Another thing that really interests me is doing things like the ornamental turning. And that's how the pattern on this was created and then dyed with ink. And by using different cutters you can create, and rosettes, you can create these patterns. And to take it one step further, okay, this is a top that was made that way. Hopefully the weather's not too bad. Here are, this one was threaded so that you actually have a box.
Okay, my next question is a 2-part question. It's about how many lathes have you got, or how many lathes have you had, and what's your favorite tool regarding wood turning?
Okay, over the course of time I've had 9 lathes. I only have 6 left. I sold off or gave away 3 of them. The longest lathe I have is a Powermatic. I needed the length because when I started doing commercial turning like balusters and newel posts, I needed something that long. The biggest turning I ever did was a piece 20 inches by 7 feet, and it was a trunnion jig for a bridge. And in order to turn that piece of wood, which was close to 600 pounds, we put the beds of 2 Powermatic lathes. I remember a conversation from Nick Cook, who had done that for a similar turning. And we put those together, and with the use of 6 fellows and a forklift, we got the wood up on the lathe, and it took us 12 hours to turn it to the shape the engineer wanted. Then I had in mind I wanted to do some really deep or wide platters, and a stubby lathe from Australia came available at a very good price, so I bought that. And then I have the two king lathes. I have the mini king lathe, which has an 8-inch swing. You can do pens and small items on it. I've done pepper mills and small bowls on it, as well as pens. And then I have the mid-size king lathe that I demo at most of the wood shows. It has a 12-inch swing, and it's a very nice, stable little lathe. I also have two homemade rose engine. Probably my two favorite tools would be the beading parting tool and a badan. I learned from Jean-Francois Esclin how to use a badan, and I find it so useful for so many little things. Next in line would probably be my spindle gouges, my roughing spindle gouge, my bowl gouge. I have several bowl gouges ground at different angles depending on what type of bowl or holoform I'm using them on. And I've come to like the skew quite a bit. I was fortunate I was taught how to use it properly. And I try and teach people how to use it the same way I was taught.
Okay, so the next question is, what would be the first advice or the best advice that you could give to a new turner?
The first thing I'd say to a new turner is don't buy any equipment. Go somewhere and take lessons. Like Craft Supplies USA, you can take 1-week classes. Aeromont in Tennessee, you can take classes at the Lee Valley stores. Or if you find a really good turner, take classes from them. I really hesitate to advise watching YouTube. There are a few people on YouTube who are good, such as Theo Haralampu and Wayne Clasper and that. Because I've seen a lot of turners on YouTube who, I hate to say it, they turn the wrong direction for the grain. And it bothers me or they don't take safety precautions. Like they're not wearing a full face mask and they're turning something like a wing bowl. And if that ever let loose, I mean, somebody's going to get hurt. And that's not the way to start out learning. You're better to have somebody there who can guide your hands and guide your tool through the cuts and make you understand why you're cutting in the direction that you're cutting. We were talking about grain direction, and grain direction is highly important. It determines how you make all of your cuts. So for example, this little bowl is what's called a side grain bowl. On a tree, the bark would have been on this side, okay? So the tree would have grown in this direction. And in certain areas, you can think of this pencil as being like the tree, okay, grew in this direction. It determines how you would make the cuts to create this bowl. So for example, if I were cutting this pencil, I would never cut across like this. I wouldn't cut this way to sharpen it. I would be making all of my cuts in this direction. So if you think about the bowl being that way, to shape the back of the bowl, your cuts are made in this direction. And when you get to the center of the bowl, in order to hollow it, you're hollowing going this way into the bowl. Okay? Now, when you do a spindle turning, okay, and this is basically a spindle turning, the grain direction now is going this way on the lathe. So if we look at this spindle as basically being the same as a pencil, the grain direction going this way, the grain direction determines which way we cut each of the parts. So on the pencil, we turn from this high, or we cut this way in order to sharpen the pencil. If we cut the other direction, it'll it'll break out. So when we're turning the parts on this, we turn from the high area, such as on this bead, to this side, from the high that way. From up here, we turn from high in this direction. Same thing here, we turn this way. When we make this set of beads here, we turn from high to low, high to low. When we're turning this section here, okay, the pencil is like this. We're turning from the high here this way. So grain direction is highly important. Okay, so if we look at this hollow form, which is kind of a deep bowl really, this is what's called an end grain bowl. The tree grew this way. Okay, the grain direction is this way. You can tell by the pith in the bottom of it. Alright? So when it's on the lathe and we're turning it, we have to think of it as being the pencil like this. And on the pencil, when you sharpen a pencil, you sharpen from high to low. So when you're turning this piece, you would do the same thing. Your cuts would be in this direction. If I tried to cut this way, it would be like, okay, it'd be like cutting this way and it would tear the grain out. Okay, same thing on a pencil. If you tried to sharpen a pencil in this direction, the wood on the top here would just peel off. So you have to understand this and know it when you go to make a piece to know which way to turn. Now, when you do the inside of this, okay, you have to think of it once again as being a pencil over here. So to sharpen a pencil, you would sharpen from here coming out. So the same thing happens on the inside here. You would go into the center and your cuts would come outward. Alright? It took me a long time to get this. In fact, I had a diagram behind my lathe, so I would look at it and say, okay, I'm turning a side grain or an end grain piece and determine which way I had to make my cuts. Now it's automatic. This piece, it's got a natural edge as well, but the grain of the tree goes this way. It's the exact opposite. Okay? So you have to think of it as, okay, once again, like our pencil. So, okay, actually if I put the pencil sideways. So our cuts are this way, in this direction, to make the bottom. Okay? So it's like cutting this side of the pencil. And when we get to the inside, okay, the pencil is like this. So we'd make our cuts from the high, which would be out here, down in this way. So it's the exact opposite of that other piece. And these are probably the hardest concepts that you have to learn, but they determine whether or not how your cuts come out.
So that's going to help also in when it comes down to sanding and finishing.
Oh, absolutely. If you make really nice clean cuts in the proper direction, first you don't crack or split your wood, and a really good cut with a sharp tool, sometimes you can start sanding with 180 or 220 paper. Now it comes down to tool choice and presentation of the tools to make items like this. Now I know for a fact that the grain direction on this ran this way. So my cuts had to be, I had to know what direction to cut in order to form these petals on this flower. The same thing on the whale's tails. When it was mounted on the lathe, it was mounted like this. Okay, so my cuts had to go from high to low, and then come down here. Same thing when I went this way on the inside. Okay, and you can't turn things like this if your tool's not cutting in the right direction. These kind of things, to turn them with a carbide would be pretty much impossible. Carbide tools have their place. Carbide tools are basically scrapers, and scrapers were developed for purposes of turning very, very hard woods. Like if you turn ebony or ivory or the really hard rosewoods, carbide tools are the perfect tools to be using for those, especially for ebony. Regular tools, it tends to chip it. But they were never designed for using on softer woods like soft maples, cedar, walnut, even some cherry, things like that, or pine. So knowing what the tool was designed for and when to use it is sort of critical. And unfortunately, a lot of people are sold tools that don't suit what they're trying to do, and then they wonder why they're experiencing difficulty. The other thing is that if you're using the wrong tool, like a carbide on a soft wood, you can end up having to start with 40 grit sandpaper instead of 220.
Okay, so my next question really is just for you. Obviously, it's going to be different for everybody around the world, but what is the best and the worst woods that are available to you for wood turning?
That's an interesting question. Local woods, I like to turn things like cherry, a very hard maple. If I can get my hands on exotic woods, I would love to have some boxwood, some lignum vitae, any of the rosewoods like cocobolo, because you can turn such fine detail in them with ease. The woods that I really don't like to turn, probably like a maple that is, it's not just spalted, but it's gone punky. Same thing with like a very old pine or a cedar or something that's gotten dried out, it's been sitting in a barn forever. Those I don't enjoy. They create a lot of dust, they crack and split, and you can't make fine cuts with them. Even though you cut properly, you still get tear out. So I prefer the more expensive woods, I guess is what it comes down to.
A lady with expensive tastes.
Yes.
Okay, so the next question is, if you could describe the most difficult thing that you have to deal with when you're wood turning.
The very most difficult would be figuring out how to turn something that's totally out of the normal realm. Like I mentioned earlier, the trunnion jig for the bridge, it was 20 inches in diameter, but it was 7 feet long. And it was through listening to a conversation I had with Nick Cook one night, where he told me about how he put two lathe beds together. And I took that idea. Another student of mine had the same lathe. We put those two lathes together, and using a forklift and a chain fall and 6 people, we managed to get the wood up onto the lathe. Now that wood was close to 600 pounds. And it took, well, 4 of us 12 hours to turn it. We took 2 tool rests, and we separated them the full length of the 2 beds, and then we took a 2-inch solid steel rod and we chained those to the tool rests, and that was what we used to turn. Second thing I find really hard to deal with is rotten wood. You get into it and you have in mind you're going to make one shape, and then you find out where the body of what you're making isn't there because there's a huge void the bugs have created inside it, or it's just so rotten it's falling apart and you can't make what you want to. I find that frustrating. Sometimes it allows you to be more creative though. Okay, we were talking about ring shake and cracks that can happen in the wood. This is the way this tree grew. So the center of the tree would be here. Now you have your annual rings, the way you tell the age of a tree, that go in this direction. Now when I was making this piece, the cracks didn't show up that were in the rings from how the tree was felled. If you look closely, the rings on the tree, okay, the growth rings go this way, and you can see right along this ring here, okay, is that visible? You can see where it's starting to crack. Well, that ring goes all the way down, and on the opposite side here, I think it's even more visible, you can see that same ring is cracked. So like this was a bowl that I had roughed out and was going to return. I'm just throwing it into the firewood pile because this bowl will come apart either while I'm turning it or down the road, and it's just not worth the time and effort to finish it. You can see how the cracks have extended right into the center. Now I know some people who will fill it with epoxy or resins and they'll try and save it. Honestly, I just don't think it's worth it. And rather than take a chance on getting hurt, I'd just soon toss it.
Okay, so to wrap this interview up, I'd like to ask you two questions in one, and that would be, who would be the two most influential people that have influenced your turning and styles and everything, and what do you think can be done to bring more people into wood turning?
Unfortunately, Alan Batty's already passed away. Alan was like a 14th generation turner, but even after he retired as a turner, he spent many years teaching other people all over the world his skills, and he was an excellent teacher. Stuart Mortimer is much the same way. Stuart learned how to turn. His turning is of the highest quality you'll find anywhere in the world. Same thing with Jean-Francois Escalin or Alain Milan or Jean-Claude Charpignon or many other people. But I think what strikes me about all of these people that I've come across who have taught me and influenced me greatly, the one thing they did not have was they didn't have a swollen head. They realized they were skilled. They didn't lord it over anyone. They just went about their business of sharing their skill and teaching and trying to teach properly and make sure that people understood the concepts they were teaching. And I greatly have to admire these people and the time and effort that they put into it. A lot of people don't realize that when you teach or demonstrate, there's a lot of work that went into it but long before the demonstration occurs. And the care that these people take and their attitudes, you know, I admire them all very, very much.
So the last part of that question was, what can be done to bring more people into wood turning?
Okay, I think one of the most important things is to have more demonstrations. The existence of wood turning clubs where they meet once a month. They have someone who's a good turner will demonstrate different principles. They also have mentoring programs where people can pick up the skill and learn from other good turners within the club. Like I said, be very careful when you pick people to watch on YouTube because there are good turners and bad turners. There are some people I couldn't even watch their whole demo. It was so bad. No, yours were not one of those.
I'll pay you later.
Gee, thanks. No, but seriously, it really bothers me to see somebody teaching others how to do something incorrectly or unsafely.
Yeah, and a lot of the videos that are out there, if you look at the video description, will say for entertainment purposes only. So it's really hard to know if you're watching. You gotta be aware of what you're watching, whether it's just for entertainment purposes or if it's a genuine teacher.
Right.
And I try to decipher a lot of that myself. And it's good to have you as a friend that has got so much knowledge and background in the field. So I really appreciate your interview today,
Well,
Ruby.
thank you.
Thank you very much.
I enjoy teaching, in case you hadn't noticed.
I had noticed that you enjoy it, yes. You were a teacher at one point, were you not?
Yeah, I taught school for 36 years, and it seems everything I've gotten into, whether it was the scuba diving, the skiing, the painting, the carving, the turning, even golf, I end up teaching some aspect or another. It's I guess it's in the blood.
Touching on scuba diving, that you were on a TV show, were you not?
Yeah, back in the early 70s and 80s, we filmed the TV series The Last Frontier.
The Last Frontier.
It was a documentary, a Canadian documentary that was all filmed underwater. And it was kind of neat because we traveled all over the world. And I got to dive in a lot of places a lot of people don't normally get to dive. And it was not a job traditional for a female to be chosen, particularly back in that time period. And I have to say I enjoyed it tremendously.
Right. Well, we're wrapping this up now, and I hope you guys got something out of this interview. I know I did. It's always interesting, and there's always something to learn. So keep on learning and turning, and be safe. Take care.
Thank you.
Okay. So did I press record? Yeah, I did.
Could leave that part in.
Yeah, well, I probably will.
Because that's a spindle.
Right. Did you see my store sample?
Yeah, I've
I know a lot of people have done it. It's nothing new.
yeah,
It's nothing
I
new.
remember the first one I saw of those was 20-some years ago.
Yeah, yeah. I know it's nothing new.
But I like the idea. In fact, I'm going to dig one of my medicine bottles out and
Yeah, yeah. Well, I got the idea actually. It was on Steve's. This is not record. Oh, it is recording.
cut this part out.
Yeah, I'll just shut it off for a minute.
Lately, I've been watching a lot of YouTube videos, and I've seen some people doing things very wrong. And it bothers me that they're learning from the wrong things and that they might possibly get injured because of it. There are some other people out there who are doing an excellent job, such as Theo Hara Lampu from Australia. His turning is spot on. His tool control, his explanations are worth somebody watching.
Ta-da!
And we're back. And we're back. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you with your big deep voice and everything.
My big deep voice. Yes. Well, that was fantastic. I enjoyed watching it again. I watched it several times actually, but there's a lot of stuff packed into that interview.
Yeah, thank you very much, Ruby. From me, I know Rob said thank you, but from me, thanks. Brilliant information, amazing art forms and pieces that you've done, and it's been an absolute pleasure to have you featured, and our first featured woodturner on the show. And I humbly take my slap on the wrist for not wearing my face shield, and I promise from now on I will wear my face shield, unless of course I'm one of the YouTube creators that you're talking about, and I should just never turn ever again on camera. So Rob's biting his lip. So
that's been done before, Steve. We can't keep you away from the camera, mate. It's been tried before.
You'll never get rid of me. Now your mic stopped working. See? It's because you touched it. Stop fidgeting.
Is it on now? Can you hear me now?
It's on now.
Okay.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Super size mobile phone. Yes, no, absolutely fantastic interview. That is obviously it's available to watch over again on this, and also I think, are you going to make it public on your channel as well, Rob?
Yeah, I'm going to make the whole interview public on my channel, so you can just pinpoint that one interview.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, so once Rob does that, I will. It's no point me grabbing the link at the moment because he has it as unlisted. So I'll grab the link once he's made it public, and I'll put it in the show notes so you can go across to his channel and watch that. Thank you very much, Ruby. We would love to have you live on the show at some point as well. Would like to.
I think a little live turning would be cool.
Absolutely.
I was actually talking with Ruby today. She mentioned that we should get a setup to do live with 2 or 3 cameras. My setup right now, I only have the 1 camera, so as far as 2 or 3 cameras might just blow my mind a little bit. I'm not quite sure what I'm doing.
I'll tell you what, you pay for my flight over, Rob, and I'll be there with all my gear, and I'll set up my gear.
Done. You
sorted.
Just tell me when. Once this COVID is over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I might even sneak a lesson or 5 with Ruby. I'm going to do what the owner said. I'm going to move over to Canada. I've tried. I want to move to Canada, but unfortunately, I've got kids and a wife that say no.
23 children, and
yeah. No, that was an absolutely brilliant interview, and thank you very much, Rob, for doing that, and for your time as well, Ruby. It's brilliant. I'm going to watch that over and over and over again, and I know exactly how to sharpen my pencil now. Anyway. Now, what are we going to do?
Yes.
Are we going to go to Wood of the Week?
Yeah. Are we going to go to Wood of the Week? We can go to Wood of the Week if we like.
Right, let's do that then. Let's do. Oh no, hold on. I'm not going to do that again. I'm not going to mess it up. I've already messed it up, but I'm just. Let me do it properly. Damn it. There we go. Wood of the week, folks. Indeed. Right, okay. Let's pop it on this one here, like that. Go for it, Rob.
Okay, so Wood of the Week this week is not wood. We did mention it before. There might be a little bit of wood in there, but it's actually, we're going to talk a little bit about resin. So, Steve, you got a bunch of images there, right?
I have, yeah. I can just throw them up and then you talk about them. Is that what you want me to do?
Yeah. Start with that.
Okay.
Okay, so this is that's Alumilite Clear Slow. This is the smaller jug. It's available on Amazon, so it's available to everybody. Clear Slow, it has a 12-minute open time. So when you mix it 50-50 by weight, stir it up, make sure it's really stirred well, and then you've got 12 minutes. You have to get it under pressure. That will squeeze the bubbles so small that you can't see them with the naked eye. Here's an example here of a block of resin that I cast last night. It's actually a fake burl. It's a fake burl, but I also cast. And there's so much you can do with resin. Okay, so let's just show you this.
You just knocked your camera off, Rob.
Oh, I think I did. Can you put it back on?
I can't control your camera.
Okay.
Switch it off and switch it back on again.
Jeez. I'm not
Did you touch your keypad?
No, I touched the blooming thing that it's plugged into here. I'm going to unplug it, plug it back in.
And then find it again in StreamYard, yeah.
Typical. What happened?
It's okay. You're just having a testicle issue.
Oh boy.
Go. Do you know what you do? Leave StreamYard. Go and get it working again, then come back into StreamYard because it's open in StreamYard and because you've had it in StreamYard, it might not reset.
Okay, hang on.
Yeah, so disappear and come back again. Sorry about this, folks. We should get back to business as usual in just a second. There he is. See? I knew how to fix that. And now he's froze. Oh, no, he's not. Plug your thing in again. Mike.
It's in. It's not.
No, it does. It keeps unplugging itself.
I don't know. I think you're just telling me that to make me feel bad. Okay, so this is a genuine piece of Mappa burl. Not maple, it's Mappa, but it's got wormholes in it. This is stabilized with cactus juice, and we're going to show you cactus juice shortly, and we'll talk a little bit about that. If you want to bring the cactus juice bottle up. So that's cactus juice. The smaller bottle is what activates it. Now you got to watch when you open that little bottle, it's under extreme pressure and it will explode out. So what I do is I hold that small bottle over the big bottle, and then I pierce it and it squirts directly into the big bottle. Get it all in there and then mix the jug up, and then that jug now is ready to be used. You use that in a vacuum chamber. So you would take the punky piece of wood or the burl or whatever, you put it in under the cactus juice and you put it into a vacuum chamber. You have a picture of that, Steve. Yep, the vacuum chamber. So the little black ring at the bottom is what you put in, and it holds the wood down underneath the cactus juice resin. So you submerge it in there. You use a vacuum to suck the air out of the wood, and then you keep doing that until all the bubbles come out, and then you release the vacuum. This takes a matter of a couple of days. You release the vacuum slowly, and then you leave it submerged for 24 hours, and this will soak up the cactus juice. Then you have to take it out and you have to bake it for an hour, I think, at 200 degrees, and then it's stabilized, ready to go. So what we're going to do is we're talking about this and this. That's cactus juice dye, so you can dye the wood as well. So as you can see, there is dye in this. There's a bunch of different colors. And so anyway, what I was saying is this is actually fake burl. It's not real burl. What I did was I took the real burl and I made my own very rough silicone mold. All I did was took a tube of regular silicone and I squeezed it all out onto some wax paper. I added some washing up liquid and I kind of kneaded it all together like bread dough. I used gloves at the same time. I didn't want to get it all over my hands. Keep adding not ketchup. Keep adding the washing up liquid and then kind of knead it together. And at some point it starts falling apart. So what you got to do then is add a little bit of water and then it'll all come together then. Once you've got it all together, then you can just push it over the whatever you're molding and kind of form it, and then just leave it sitting on the side for 24 hours. And the next day you can just pull it off and there's your mold. And then basically what you can do is then get some resin, whatever resin you're using, and mix it up into 2 or 3 colors if you want, or just one color, whatever. Fill this up, put it in the pressure pot, and then you get a fake burl. Here's an example, my first example of what that looks like. I made this a little bit too thin, but what I could do is put this in a mold and I could have 2 pieces facing each other and have clear resin in between them. You've probably all seen some guys on YouTube. I can't remember that guy's name. Steve, you know, that makes those spheres, the spheres.
Oh, Heath. Yeah.
Heath Knuckles. Heath Knuckles does great work like that. So to give you an example again as how you mold it, when you get the pieces of the burl, the fake burl or whatever, I made this mold basically. It's 2 by 2 by 6 inches long. And then I just put a little bit of silicone around here. I didn't want it dripping out any little hole, because it will do if you're not careful. And then I actually made 2 little tiny blocks that I can fit in there as well. So I can either make one big piece, or I can make a small piece, or 2 pieces, whatever you want to do, however size you want to put it. And then you can put the burl in there and then make your dragon egg or sphere blank, whatever you want to make. And on the same note, I did the same thing for pen blanks. This is one I use. It makes 3 pen blanks. It's just a brick, basically, that you then cut up. So that's not jig of the week. That's just part of casting. And on the same note, with the cactus juice stabilizing wood, this is an example of a piece of stabilized wood. Really, it was really punky and buggy and nasty looking. I added some color and the cactus juice. I haven't touched it since. Here's another one. This still has to get stabilized a second time. What I do is I do the colors first, and then I do a second stabilization under a third lighter color. And then I end up with something finished once I sand it that looks more like this. So you can see how much more solid that is compared to the previous one. So I'm not trying to sell these. I'm just trying to show you guys how to do it so you can go ahead and do it yourself. But I got a whole bunch of these pieces, gnarly looking bits of wood that I've stabilized, and then they need to get stabilized again. And then this one example would be cast with resin to fill up those voids. So they could make some really interesting, cool blanks, especially that one. I think that's going to be cool.
You do have stabilized and hybrid pen blanks, don't you, on your website? So they are available.
Yeah, I do on my website. Yeah,
in below. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I'm not here to make sales today. I'm here to show you guys how to do it
Yeah,
and
you
what
are.
you need. Well, yeah, but this is how this is how you guys can do it. But you have to get the equipment. You need the vacuum pump and the vacuum chamber. There's various different things available on different websites and Amazon.ca or .com or whatever. What other pictures have we got there, Steve, with resins? Because there's a whole bunch of resins. This is wood of the week, resin. So Alumilite. Alumilite Clear Slow. I think that's what that is. Alumilite Clear Slow. Yes, it is. I can tell by the color of it. Alumilite Clear Slow has got a 12-minute open time. So that as soon as you've mixed them together, you start mixing them, you got 12 minutes. I already mentioned that with the smaller jugs. There are the smaller jugs, and then these are the gallon jugs. There's 2 gallon jugs that you mix together. And you don't have to do it all in one go. You can do small pieces at a time. Those dyes are for the Alumilite. So that's for the resin. The cactus juice dyes are different. You don't use those. You don't intermix them. They're different. So you've got cactus juice dyes for cactus juice for stabilizing. And you've got the ink dyes for the resins. And those are pigment powders. That's just an example. They come in pots as well. You can get nebula powders. There's a whole bunch of different types of mica powders that you can buy to mix up, and you can pour, say, 300 grams of resin, mix it all up, and then separate it into 2 or 3 pots, and then you can add yellow, black, and blue, whatever you want to do, to the 3 different pots. Mix it up, and then you wait. The longer you wait, the better separation you get. If you really push it, this one, I pushed it probably longer than I ever have. I pushed it 16 minutes, which is actually beyond the 12-minute open time. But you also want to keep an eye on the temperature of the resin as it's setting up. I've got a little point and push thing. It was like $30 on Amazon. You don't want it to get over 100 degrees. So that's Fahrenheit. As soon as you get Fahrenheit, yeah, it must be Fahrenheit. As soon as it gets to 100 degrees, you've really pushed the limits. It starts to get really thick and stodgy, and then more likely to have bubbles in it. If you're casting things like wood with open voids and pine cones and things like that, you really want to get that resin in there by about 8 minutes, and then in the vacuum chamber as soon as you can, because the pine cones are more likely to keep the bubbles stuck in there. So...
yeah, and I think the thing that I started finding out now that I'm not really big into resins. I sell them myself, but that's from a company. I don't make my own. And the thing that I didn't realize when I started getting in and reading up a bit about it is the amount of different resins that are available, and some aren't actually resins when you would think that they're resins, and some are resins. It's a whole quagmire of different things. So I suppose the only thing I've learned is to do your studies on what particular resin you want to turn, because each one turns completely different. I tried turning a couple and it's just been a nightmare.
I went about it the expensive route when I first started doing it. I tried different things without really knowing which resin I should buy. So I bought the West system initially, which is supposed to be really good. It's like one of the best resins, and I still to this day haven't opened it. I understand that when you pour it, it's a thermic reaction is what sets it. It gets super hot. And I think the West system, you've got a picture there, Steve?
I don't know. Did you send me a picture?
Yeah.
Okay, hold on.
The West system. No, West system. It's a tin can. Nope.
Oh, no, you didn't send me that one.
Yeah, I did send it. Anyway, that's okay. So anyway, the West system is quite expensive. I think it's like $60 for a fairly small jug. And again, it's a 2-part resin. It gets super hot. I haven't used it yet, but apparently it's super clear, which is really nice. And you can pour it quite thick, but it will get really, really hot. You have to be careful. I haven't used that one. Another one I've tried is art resin. Have you got a picture, Steve? Art resin. I did send you pictures. I know.
I'm going to have to find them.
Yeah. So art
Keep
resin.
Talking, I'll see if I find them.
Yeah. Some resins are like bar top resins. They're really not intended for casting. They're for thin layers, for doing artwork on canvas, for doing bar tops and things like that. Depending on what you're casting, if you want to cast layers of leather or layers of material like jean material or something, art resin will work. But if you're doing a thick cast of resin, you'll think it's worked. But when you go to turn it and sand it and finish it, the friction will make it soft and it might come apart on you, which it most likely will, because it doesn't cast as hard. So art resin I'd avoid that.
Okay.
You're not finding the pictures, Steve?
Yeah, no, I've just found them on Facebook. They were up further. I missed them.
Yeah.
My bad. I'll get them
okay.
sorted now, and I'll
add
them on.
There was something else. Wayne the Bigfoot's off tomorrow. So that's art resin. Oh, there was the new one, magic resin. Now, one of the big things you've got to be careful, of course, is you're messing with chemicals. And it is a thermic reaction, so they get hot. You want to wash your hands. You really should wear a respirator, eye protection. You got to be careful with this stuff. Now, magic resin. I gave you the website, Steve, if you have that. They have a bunch of...
Sorry, yeah, all the links that you sent me are in the show notes below, in the description below.
So in the description below, magic resin, I think I'm going to give them a try, because it says that they're safe to use indoors and that they're odorless and that they're obviously more friendly. They're not as volatile. Some of the resins will give off fumes and you don't realize it, but they're not good for you. So that's the West system, the can that I've got. I haven't opened it yet. And it comes as a 2-part thing you mix together. What else you got there? You got the art resin.
Yes, I'm going to leave that one up for you to play with.
Okay.
It's
So again, and that comes with a pump system, so you can 1 pump of each, and you get the right amount. That's how you mix that, 1 pump of each. And there's the art resin. So art resin looks and acts the same. I believe it's got a longer open time. There is also an Alumilite clear cast, which is very similar to Alumilite clear slow. Clear slow has an open time of 12 minutes, which is perfect for casters because you don't have to sit and wait. Keep that one up for a minute. Alumilite clear cast has, I think it's like 40 minutes of open time. So it's a lot longer of a period that it's open for. So again, you're thinking of pours that you want to cure slower than clear cast. If you want it to set up quick, then clear slow, which is weird because it's slow, but whatever. So this here is actually a 5-minute epoxy, and you can get it in all kinds of forms. You can get similar stuff at the dollar store in 2 little tubes. This, I believe, you get at Lee Valley. It's $50 for 2 big pots of it, and I've got some. I've had it for ages. You mix that equal amounts, and you mix it together. You can add pigments and things. It does get hot. It's a thermic reaction, so you can play with different colors and things. I used it on some of my earlier stuff, and it does work. You can turn it, and I didn't use a pressure pot or anything. I just kind of pushed it into some voids, and it kind of worked. If you don't want to invest money into all the pressure pot and everything, or if you got a large piece that won't go in a pressure pot, maybe that'll work for you. And then super glue, the CA, the Starbond stuff, Steve.
1 second.
Yeah, that's the amazing clear cast. That's the one that's got 40 minutes open time. It's good stuff, though. So clear, slow, and clear cast. That's the cast. You can tell by the colors. I mean, not that I'm one to talk about colors. I'm colorblind, but okay, so super glue, CA glue. I've used that on a couple of recent bowls that I've done. If you've got small little cracks and things, you got choices. You want to use resin, you want to use epoxy, or do you just want to fill it with CA glue? Again, you can use pigment, you can use brass shavings, copper shavings, aluminum shavings, or whatever you want. Now, there is a couple of new ones that they have. One is odorless, which is awesome, and one is flexible just a little bit. So CA glue generally is very brittle. So they now have a flexible one and an odorless one. And then obviously the colors, the white, the black, and the brown, and the clear brown. It's kind of a light brown. And again, if you go to my website, you'll get that discount. We talked about that last week, I think. There's a 15% discount.
Yeah, I think that's in the description already there still.
Okay.
I've left it in. I leave it in every week, so I think.
So and the other thing too is if you don't want to make molds for pen blanks, you can buy them from P-Town Stubby. So P-Town Stubby. And these are for tube in. So this would have the tube in. You would cast a pen with a label on the tube. And I'm going to show you one I turned yesterday. I'm an Elvis fan, so I made turn it around. I made that yesterday. So cool. That's the resin is clear, and then I used labels that I printed off myself and stuck them on the tubes, and then I put them in a mold like this from P-Town Stubby, and then these little bung plugs stick in there, and they stick in the tubes.
Good choice of words.
Bung plugs. I don't know what they're called.
Well, they're not.
So
yeah.
No, they're not them. But that's the kind of thing you can do.
And Rob's actually learned how to do programming and everything and work out how to make labels and stuff as well. Well done, Rob.
Steve, couldn't do it without you, mate. Couldn't do it without you.
No, you're doing well now with it. You picked
I'm
it up
using
quite quick.
the program canva.ca. Is it canva.ca? I don't know what it's called. Canva.
It's just canva.com. Yeah.
.com. But I got the paid for version, which gives you a little bit more options. So it's an annual fee, right, of $100 and some. But for me, it might be worth it. I can't sell these because it's copyright infringement. I can't sell them, and I won't sell them to you.
But you can send them for an additional shipping fee.
I can give them to people as gifts
and charge them the additional shipping fee. Yeah.
No, we're not even going to go there. I can't copyright infringement. The last thing I need is someone knocking on my door.
Ringing the bell. Do him
Yeah,
a favour.
yeah. But
Well, lots of
so,
interesting
yeah,
stuff there.
I hope so. Yeah.
You can, if you don't want to cast your own resins, you can buy them. I've put a link to my own store. If you're in Ireland, you can get GPS agencies stuff. They do their own form of resins where they mix paper and stuff like that into it and get these different cool designs. But also I've put GPS agencies' own website down there as well. So you can, if you're in the UK, you can click on their site. They don't actually sell directly, but they can you can find all their suppliers on their webpage.
Yeah, and then there's acrylic too, right? I think some of your stuff's acrylic, which
A
is
lot of
again
it is
another.
acrylic,
And that stuff smells so bad when you're turning it. It does have an odor.
Yeah, not too bad. Not as bad. I tell you what was bad was the that one I did. I can't even remember what it is. It's horrible anyway. But I'm not even going there because I had a nightmare of a time turning that. Thanks, Leona, for the links that you're putting into the chats. Well, that's Woody Resin of the week. Well done. Very good.
Yeah.
We, believe it or not, we've only got about 20 minutes left. So I'll do a few fascinating facts, I think, to start with, and then we'll do your jig, and then that'll probably roll us into coming up for the end of the show. How's that? We'll
Sounds
do this
good.
then.
Fascinating facts.
Fascinating facts.
You still haven't got Daniel to do that.
No, I was back at work, Rob, and you know, I had the additional stress of trying to work out how to play bloody videos on this, and then I realized that you can do it through StreamYard, which was brilliant. So I worked that out. So that's good. We got there, so we can do that more in the future. But anyway, fascinating facts this week, folks. It's all about wood and trees and stuff like that this week. So wood is possibly 400 million years old. Oh, look, I'm not even on the. Why am I? What? Why aren't I? What? Hold on a sec. Let me fix this. I should be on top of all this. There I am. Ta-da! Technology, baby. Yes, wood is possibly 400 million years old. Scientists in New Brunswick, British Columbia, have discovered that plants first developed a structure that could be identified as wood 395 to 400 million years ago. According to the research carried out on ancient fossils, woody structures were originally found in small plants which evolved into conifers and much later into the broadleaf trees, which are an essential part of life today. Imagine that, 400 million years old. That's pretty dang impressive. That's a fascinating fact, you know. Just saying. The origin of doors in the UK. Only went with UK with this one. Didn't have time to go worldwide doors, but the oldest door is made of oak and is located in Westminster Abbey. That's not the door, by the way. That's not the picture of Westminster Abbey door. That's just one I found that wasn't copyright. Can't hear you, Rob. Sorry.
I want to see the door, Steve.
Tough. No, you're not going to have it this week. I'll put it up next week. I'll put a link to it in the description below. There you go. It is over 900 years old and was put in place during the reign of Edward the Confessor in 142 to 166. Or 1042.
Imagine the door. Imagine the doorman. That's a job for life.
Yeah. That's 900-year-old man watching that door. Made from one tree, it is 6.5 feet high and 4 feet wide. There is a rather unpleasant legend about this door too, which said that it was covered in the skin of a punished man. But tests have shown the skin to be cowhide, not human. So yeah, that's a fascinating fact. The world's shortest trees, Rob. Do you know about these?
Bonsai.
No, actual trees that haven't been messed with by Rob. The world's shortest tree is the dwarf willow, which lives in northerly and Arctic tundra regions and rarely grows more than a couple of inches high. Dwarf willow tree Salix capria pendula. Woo! A wonderful architectural dwarf tree which heavily pendulous branches. Good Lord, try saying that without your false teeth in. It boasts bright yellow furry catkins in the spring that are popular with bees. The mid-green ovate leaves have soft grey undersides, perfect for a small garden.
Do they have miniature bees too, Steve?
Yeah, just tiny little bees. Weeny, you can't see them.
They're so small.
They're so small you can't see them. Yeah, they're wee bees.
Yeah,
that's what they're called, wee bees. And here's just the last few quick facts about trees. Trees get 90% of their nutrition from the atmosphere and only 10% from the soil. Trees grow from the top, not the bottom. Watch for 100 years and you'll notice the branches only move a few inches up the trunk as the tree grows. Some trees talk to one another. When willows are threatened by insect pests, they emit a chemical warning to nearby trees who secrete more tannin to put the invaders off. Trees trap 50% of all the sun's energy caught by living organisms. And that is this week's fascinating facts, folks.
Cool. I like trees.
Yeah.
I've always been kind of on the verge of being a tree hugger until like 5-7 years ago when I look at trees with envy. I want to cut that down.
Now you're a tree fondler rather than a hugger.
A tree fondler, yeah. There's a tree actually in my town that every time I take Finn out, my dog, for a walk, there's a tree with a big burl up top. It's called a burr in England, right? Or UK and Ireland. Over here, it's called a burl with an L. But yeah, I envy that thing. It's up there. I'd love to get up there with a chainsaw or have someone do it for me. Great big thing.
I've not turned one yet.
Well, it's nice. It's nice stuff. It's nice looking stuff. It can. Yeah, you had a bit of Mike Walt's burl. Burl.
Yeah, but not. When I say that, I had a bit of burl that had been cut already into a blank. But what I mean is, I've not had a burl to turn into a bowl or to have its natural spikiness, if you know what I mean, the natural edge of the burl.
I hear. I'm just looking at my phone right now because there's a place in Australia that I buy some burl from, pieces. I can't find the website now, but anyway, you can look it up online, I'm sure. But there are places you can buy burl from, exotic stuff too, and it's pretty nice. The red marley and the brown marley burl, and you can get the whole caps or slices or whatever. So
they do the Bob Marley as well.
They might do. Bob Marley. Boom, boom,
boom, boom. Yes. So right, okay, let's do this, Rob.
Yes.
Shall we? Yeah.
Okay.
Let's. Oh no, I'm not doing that one. Sorry. Woohoo! Let's do this one. Oh, what am I doing there?
You're still there, honestly. Center of attention as always. Jigs and tools.
Jigs and tools.
You got a picture of it there, don't you?
Yeah. Oh, look, there's me again.
I'm going to hold it up too.
I do.
I'm actually in the process of making this jig. It's not finished yet, as you can see. So I looked up online. I've been looking at eccentric jigs to make off-center cuts and things on lid boxes and pendants and things like that. So the other piece, this is the base piece. This goes into the chuck jaws. Now there's 2 screw holes there because the 2 screws hold that piece of aluminum that I cut into there. It's not pretty. This is
that one.
That's pretty. But it's got 3/8 holes drilled in. This one is dead center. I drilled that one on the lathe, and I thread it on the lathe. So when I was drilling it, I drilled it as you normally would, and then when I thread it, I just turned the piece by hand. You can't turn the lathe on and thread it because you rip it apart, I think. So I thread it by hand, and then the other holes were all done on the drill press. So basically, that gives me different centers for the top piece. Now, the top piece is also going to have a piece of aluminum, which is in the lathe right now. I'm going to have a 3/8 bolt through that piece of aluminum.
Aluminium.
Aluminium. The threads will stick out the back side of it, and then the nut portion, the top portion, will be under the surface of the aluminum, so you won't see that. And then that will have a piece of either this hard plastic, probably this hard plastic again, or wood. You could do whatever you wanted to. I'll probably use the other piece of this. This is like really hard plastic. And then I'll have basically a glue block on that, which will accommodate you could pendants. So it'll have like a 2-inch recess for the pendant, or 3-inch, or whatever you want. Obviously, you're limited to a point because it's just glued on, so you don't want a massive 12-inch platter or something. But you could probably push it and see what you can do with it. But that's saving me some money. Now, I got the idea from Ruth Niles. If you look online, Ruth Niles, she has this. It's available. It's about $100 and some. Is it HDPE? I don't know if it is. It might be. I don't know what it is. I got it from work. It was a scrap piece of plastic or something.
Found it, did you? You found it.
Found it. It might be HDPE, but I think it's harder than HDPE, to be honest with you. But I mean, you could make that with wood, or you could find something. You find something. So yeah, look around your shop, because you'd be surprised what you've got in the shop. I collect stuff, a bit of hardwood or whatever. You could make that, but make that the size of whatever set of jaws you want to use, a bigger set or whatever. This is the medium set of jaws for my chuck, and then the aluminum is good for a long time, and the bolt will go in, and then I can change my center of the front piece. So that will change the center, and it will give me different patterns that I can do on pendants and lids for little boxes and things. So that's jig of the week.
Paint the sides of it bright red, or in your case, green.
I could turn this round. I'm probably not going to. There is going to be another piece on the front of that as well. But I think when you're approaching that with a tool, you're only going to be using a detail tool. So I don't think you're going to have your hands anywhere near it for the short period of time you're going to use it. You're just going to be using it for 1, 2, or 3 little details. So that's really all it's for.
I would still advise anybody making one maybe to just make that bright red or a nice bright color, just in case. It's no harm that you can see it flashing there, that it's a no zone area. If you're making your own tools, absolutely do it with your own discretion, with your own safety in mind. I'm making this with my safety in mind. I know what I'm comfortable with. I'm not telling you to make this exactly like this. You can buy one at Ruth Niles' website, but this is just my version of it. And it gives you kind of an idea. A lot of the stuff you can make yourself. We're all makers. If you can make a jig to save yourself some money, whether it's something like this out of HDPE to make pen blanks out of, or whether it's a tube of silicone and you can make that out of just a tube of silicone with some washing up liquid and then a little bit of water, and then mold it over whatever you're casting, or whether it's on the floor now, or whether it's something a little bit more solid. But yeah, you want to make sure it's solid, safe, and secure. Keep safety in mind always, especially when you're making something. So. Yeah, there we go. Restoring a 100-year-old set of calipers while watching. I just shot the spring across the workshop and possibly into another dimension. No, Mike, no. That is so annoying. Do you know what I do all the time?
It's the Bermuda Triangle. Everything that you lose goes there.
Yeah, I lose the little nub screws or the screws out of all the tools when you're changing heads and stuff, especially the Hope hollower. When I take the little head off that, it's gone. Magnet comes in very handy for that. That's annoying, Mike, though. I hope you find it. I hope he hasn't gone into a scary dimension. I hope it's like a really cool dimension where you find it. Well, what's the old time? We've done well this evening.
We fit it in pretty much, yeah.
Right, we've got 4 minutes left. We've got 4 minutes left. So I think personally, I think we should do this. Myself personally.
What are you doing? Random wheel of something. There you go.
Yeah.
Get me out of there. Move. There you go.
Put you there. And hopefully this works this week. So yes, I didn't take toys out, I don't think. So
spin it, Steve.
I'm gonna spin it. I'm gonna take toys out first though. Where's toys? Let me get rid of toys. There we go. Toys is gone. It's spinning.
Richards took down an elm tree covered in burr last year. Very nice.
Ruby's going to show you another way, Rob.
Well, I know that you can just adjust the piece of wood in the chuck too, like that. But we're going to be recording another video soon. We're doing a goblet, I believe, Ruby, and also a threaded lidded box. And then Ruby's going to show me. Ruby's going to show me how to make my own cowboy hat and my own all the things she's got. She's going to show me how to make them all. I just want to make one of everything.
It was food, Rob. What's your favourite food?
We did that one already. We talked about my nan's meat pie and the suet crust, didn't we?
Well, we're going to talk about it again. What's your favourite dessert? We'll talk about dessert this time.
Oh, Caribbean cream. There's a dessert that we make. It's called Caribbean cream. I think it's I don't know what's in it. It's kind of a yogurty, plain yogurt, caramelized stuff on it. A little bit of brown sugar on the top. It's very light and fluffy. You whisk it so all the calories have gone away, and it's amazing. It's really good. And every time we make it, Mum used to make it years ago, and now me and Andy, or the families, make it. And every time we make Caribbean cream, we sing
Caribbean Queen.
Yes. I don't know the words now.
Yes, I can just imagine it.
Yeah, we sing that every single time now. So that's one thing. Apple pie. Oh, apple pie.
Yeah, I like a nice apple pie. My all-time favourite pie is a Bramley apple pie. Not a Bramley apple.
Bitter.
Not a Bramley apple.
Bittersweet apple. Like
No, it's the. Oh, I can't remember what it is now.
Sour apple.
It's apple and custard. It's like an apple and custard type pie, and it's just really, really nice. It's got like a layer of custard, then apples, like that apple pie. But yeah, I'm not a huge desserty man myself, to be honest with you. I used to love my granny's trifle.
Leona just learned that whisking gets rid of calories. Yes, it does. You can whisk the calories right out of there. It's a fact.
She's going to whisk her Easter eggs now.
That sounds disgusting.
You're going to have people just whisking chocolate bars and everything now, Rob. Just
Rob said it whisks the calories away. Yes.
I personally thought that whisking just mushes it all up and just makes it easier to eat.
My son Connor actually whisks egg whites and makes meringues.
Oh, yeah. Meringues, yeah, I make meringues, yeah.
And then you bake them, and then they're crispy and sugary, and then on the inside they're a little bit chewy. Oh, they're so good with ice cream. Oh, it's the best. Just vanilla.
Yeah, no, I like those.
Oh, sticky toffee pudding. We've got some sticky toffee puddings in the freezer. maybe they'll come out tonight to play.
I like sticky toffee pudding, but it has to be done properly, because I've had some where people have burnt the toffee mixture when they've mixed it into it, and it just it's horrible.
Well,
It's just like
there's always steam pudding, right? You steam it instead, and then Christmas pudding, steam that.
Pudding.
Oh,
bread pudding's nice too.
Bread and butter pudding. Yeah. I'm not a fan of bread pudding, but bread and butter pudding is amazing.
Butter. That's really Canadian. Butter.
That's the Loot Onion coming out in me, innit?
Yeah, in it.
Every time I talk.
That's how the new Loot Onions talk. In it.
Every time I talk to you, yeah.
Yeah.
Cherry pie. Cherry pie is good.
Yeah,
Baked
nice
Alaska.
cherry pie is nice. Bakewell tart was the one I was trying to think of too.
Oh, no.
But I do a pistachio Bakewell tart. It's actually green.
Oh, I like pistachios. Nice. Big fan of pistachios.
I actually did the pistachio and raspberry Bakewell tart on the Bake Off. It was actually Paul Kelly's, the judge's signature dish.
Cheesecake's awesome.
Yeah, cheesecake is nice. Good shout there, Nick.
Yeah,
definitely. I like it. Nice.
And there's different types of cheesecake. One that's really soft and creamy, and one that's kind of chalky and cheesy almost. It's my wife makes different cheesecakes, and they're good.
I like a beer for dessert. Well, you can get a baked cheesecake, can't you? And then you can get a fridge cheesecake.
I don't know. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah,
cheesecakes. Yeah,
maybe that's what it is.
Bit of cream cheese.
Cream cheese, yeah.
But right, well, Rob, I think we've made it to the end.
We have made it to the end.
a couple of minutes over. Once again, Ruby, thank you very much for your brilliant words of wisdom and showing off your fantastic art. It was an absolute pleasure.
And honestly, that's just a small portion of the stuff that she's made and she's done. I've seen she's got like all kinds of stuff in her house on display, and it just blows my mind. Every time I go there, I see something new, and she's got so many things she's made. I can't even begin to tell you. Like
Ruby's
amazing.
My kind of turner, just the weird and wacky and wonderful stuff. And hopefully next time I'm in Canada, I can get over and visit you, Ruby, when all this shit is over.
Absolutely. We'll go over there and do some turning.
That's what it is. I'm looking forward to get back over to see. We're supposed to be doing a rerun because it's my 50th birthday in July, and Rob's already turned the big 100. We were supposed to redo the road trip,
the Memphis road trip.
The Memphis road trip. We were supposed to do that as an anniversary type, birthday type trip, and it just didn't happen. And I want to do that.
Obviously,
we've got to do it. We've got to do that.
It's changed down there. It's going to be a whole different experience, but I still think it's going to be good. I still think it's going to be good, but it has changed. The hotel that we stayed at was the Westin Hotel years ago in the 80s when I first went there. It later became Heartbreak Hotel, which is when we went there, and it is now gone. They demolished it. So I'm not quite sure where we'd stay now, but there is, I'm sure there's stuff there to stay, places to stay.
So I'll be coming over for 3 weeks. I'll be staying with Rob for 2 weeks, and I'll be staying with Ruby for 1 week. Okay, Ruby? So get the spare room sorted, and I'll see you when I come. That's the Irish way. You have to invite yourself into people's houses. It's just the way it is.
Sorry, Ruby. I apologize now before it.
That's just the way it is. Right, that's it, folks.
Yes.
Thank you very much. I'm gonna end the show. Thanks everybody for watching. We had up on 35 people, I think, this evening, which was brilliant. Thank you very much. It's great to see new faces in the chat as well. And please make sure that you like, share, and subscribe if you haven't already. And please, make sure you share these videos out, because that's what gets them pushed out there, gets a wider audience, and then we can go that way. I think we kind of kept it more woodworky this evening. So let us know what you think in the comments below as well. And I am in the middle of building the Facebook page as well, the Rob and Steve Facebook page. I haven't made it live yet, but I've started building it. So once that's up and running, I'll let you know as well. Thank you, Ruby.
Thank you, Ruby. Yes.
Enjoy your supper.
Yes.
Right, folks, that's it. I'm gonna call it an evening. Thanks, Rob. I'll chat to you again in a minute. But everybody else, we'll see you on the other side. And I'm live tomorrow evening. No clue what. I think I'm actually turning a flower, not messing about tomorrow. So I'll see you tomorrow.
Is that
All
for
right?
the is that for the challenge?
Yeah, for the WWCCPOFF #FW challenge. Yeah. So right, I'm going to do this. Bye.